Hello friends, welcome to Knowledge House. Right now we'll be doing the analysis of the Hindu newspaper dated 21st of July. So as usual we'll be giving more importance to articles that are important from a competitive exams perspective. So let's start. So the first article is the Trust Board sets the tone for 2019 polls. It is regarding the non-confidence motion that was discussed or that was moved by TDP, that is Telugu Desam Party, yesterday in Lok Sabha. So in a parliamentary democracy, government can be only in power if it commands a majority in the directly elected house. So it is Article 75 third of the Constitution that embodies this rule by specifying that Council of Ministers are collectively responsible to Lok Sabha, and the rules of the Lok Sabha provides a mechanism for testing this collective responsibility, and they allow MPs who garner a minimum support of 50 colleagues to introduce a motion of no confidence against the Council of Ministers. Thereafter, a discussion of motion will take place, and the MPs who support the motion highlight the government's shortcomings, and the Treasury benches respond to the issues they raise. So let's have some history, or let's take a glance at the history of no confidence motions that were introduced so far. So it was in 1952, the rules of the Lok Sabha provided that no confidence motion could be moved with the support of 30 MPs. Even then, not a single no confidence motion was moved during the term of the first two Lok Sabhas. It was during the third Lok Sabha in 1963 that Acharya J.B. Kripalini moved a no confidence motion against Jawaharlal Nehru's government, and he failed to defeat the government that was ruling. And the next no confidence motion was moved in the year 1964 by N.C. Chatterjee against the government of Lal Bahadur Shastri. And after that, it was in 1979 that the first no confidence motion that led to falling of a government. It came in 1979 against Prime Minister Morarji Desai. It was moved by YB Chavan, and later, and a series of events, especially when Rajiv Gandhi was in power, when Narasimha Rao was in power, and a series of motions has happened ever since. And right now, yesterday, what we saw was it was the 27th no confidence motion that was discussed in Lok Sabha. So that's all about this particular article. Anyway, the government has, the NDA government on Friday defeated the no confidence motion against it by the opposition. Uh, and the final figures, subject to correction, stood at 325 with the government and 126 against, with no abstentions. That's all about this article. Let's move on to the next one. It is regarding the Supreme Court Collegium stands firm on Justice K. M. Joseph appointment to the Supreme Court. So Justice K. M. Joseph is right now the Chief Justice of Uttarakhand High Court. So let's have some background information regarding the whole system of collegium. So it was a Supreme Court verdict in 1981 that set the ball rolling regarding the battle between the legislature and the judiciary. So in a case SP Gupta versus President of India and others, which is also known as the first judge's case in 1981, the judgment ended with a majority ruling that Chief Justice of India's opinion is not binding for deciding on appointments of judges to the High Court and Supreme Court. In effect, it means that the legislature would have a say in their appointment. And in Supreme Court in 1993 says only judiciary should take lead in appointment of judges. So it was in 1993 that another bench of Supreme Court headed by Chief Justice, the then Chief Justice J.S. Verma, struck down the earlier view on the issue and held that judiciary must be given primacy. And in 1998, Supreme Court clarifies that Chief Justice has to take into account the plurality of judges for making a decision. This is the third judgment regarding the same issue, and this stated that Chief Justice of India has to take into account various views, that is, plurality of the judges before making decisions on appointment. This was in response to a reference by the President in which the Supreme Court was asked to clarify whether the Chief Justice has to take the opinion of other judges also. And in 2008, a law commission report sparked a debate on the efficiency of collegium. In 2008, a law commission report gave rise to debate, as it pointed out that whether the system of judges appointment that is the appointment of judges handled by themselves was a good one. It pointed out that in other countries, executive is the sole authority to appointment judges, or it appointment judges in consultations with the chief justice, saying that the second judge's case has completely eliminated the role of executive, and it is something that is not fair. That's what the law commission report says. Anyway, right now, since the collegium has uh, again nominated Justice K.M. Joseph for the appointment to Supreme Court, this decision becomes binding on the government. That's the status quo. Anyway, let's move on to the next article. It is regarding it is a news regarding WhatsApp. Uh, so WhatsApp had decided to curve the forwards, the limit to which a message can be forwarded only to 5 chats. So in India, WhatsApp is trying to limit the number of forwards to 5 chats as against 20 in the rest of the world. So it is 5 to 20. In India, where the people forward more messages, photos, and videos than any other country, that's what WhatsApp says. We'll also test a lower limit of five chats at once, and we will remove the quickly forward button next to the media messages. That's what the whole article says. So let's move on to the next one. It is regarding 93 lakh trucks off the road. That is, all of a sudden, the drivers or the this trucks owners have gone on strike, and the reason behind is the frequent changes in the diesel prices and the non-transparent toll policy and high insurance premium were cited as the main reasons. And the various industrial bodies have stated that this strike would cause a loss of around 20,000 to 25,000 crore to the economy. So that's what this article says. Let's move on to the next one. It is regarding cryptocurrencies. So cryptocurrencies will boost illegal transactions. That's what RBI has submitted to the Supreme Court. So let's have a slight analysis of cryptocurrencies. So what are the advantages of cryptocurrencies? They are easy to access. With this, we can make quick and easy payments, and fast settlements can be done, and the transaction fees are low, and it is completely private. That is, you don't need to share your identity or whereabouts or the details of the transaction made between you and the beneficiary, and no information is required to share with the government and the bank regarding the deal. It is 100% decentralized, and it is highly secure. It remains anonymous, and since there is no need to submit all your personal identity and all that, there is no case of identity theft, and there are no chargebacks, and there are no third parties involved, and it also facilitates international trade, and also it is easy to access. Anyway, it is, since it is highly decentralized, and all these beneficiaries, various governments across the world are not making, or major share of the governments are not, even though they have not termed cryptocurrencies illegal, they have serious questions regarding the same. So let's look at some of the disadvantages of cryptocurrency. It is difficult to understand. That's the first and the foremost thing. So cryptocurrencies are relatively new and come with a learning curve, and people end up investing without proper knowledge, and ends up in losing money. And it is not, they are not widely accepted, and chances are more that you can lose your wallet. That is, there is a possibility of losing your wallet if you have you know if you lost your password and lost your devices. There are chances that you may lose your wallet, and there are no reverse no it, there is no way to reverse the payment. If you may mistakenly pay someone using a cryptocurrency, there is no way that you can get a refund, and there is a lot of uncertainty and volatility, and that these are some of the disadvantages. Anyway, in the current stand of India government is that um, it has not termed it illegal, but see, the RBI is considering, is doing more labor into it, whether to consider this or not. Anyway, right now the Supreme Court, it has submitted to the Supreme Court that it will boost illegal transactions. That's all about this particular article. Let's move on to the next one. It is regarding India to host the US for 2+2 talks. So, something of the a background information regarding the same was discussed yesterday. So the two important agreements that is likely to be the main discussion in the upcoming Indo-US talks are, it is regarding the COMCASA agreement and regarding the CAATS. That is, COMCASA refers to you know Communications Compatibility and Security Agreement, and CAATS refers to countering America's adversaries through trade sanctions. These are the two rules that about which the most of the discussion will be taking place. So COMCASA, what exactly it is? So COMCASA, it is a legal framework that provides for transfer of communication security equipments from US to India that would facilitate interoperability between India and the US forces and potentially with other militaries as well, that uses the US origin system of secure tactical data links. So the US, however, tightly controls the COMSEC technology and provides access only to those countries that have signed a COMCASA. So that's the importance of this. And anyway, let's look at how the things are going to evolve after the discussion. And CAATS, that is countering America's adversaries through trade sanctions, it is a recent move. And about this particular article, we have to consider India's relation with Iran and Russia also. So countering America, this particular act says that whoever is in a good relationship, especially in trade and defense relationship with America's adversaries, they will be US will treat them with different types of sanctions. So this definitely, it was said that it was mentioned by the experts that this particular agreement or this particular rule that is likely to come up in that is likely to be implemented in US would cripple India's defense relations with Russia, and also it is likely to impinge on our relationship with Iran. And recently, when US asked India to bring down the oil import from Iran to zero, India maintained that India and Iran will continue their relationship with the same momentum. Anyway, let's look at how things will evolve after this 2+2 talks. So let's move on to the next article. It is titled "New Cell to Revolve, New Cell to Resolve the Child Custody Disputes." Anyway, the crux of the matter is that the government told the parliament on Friday that a mediation cell would be set up under the Apex Child Rights Body, that is National Commission for Protection of Child Rights, to resolve the child custody disputes arising out of transnational marital discourse. And let's have some additional information regarding this. Uh, Regarding the whole issue. Anyway, there is a international convention called Hague Convention on Civil Aspects of International Child Abduction. So this is a multilateral treaty developed by the Hague Conference on Private International Law that provides an expeditious method to return a child internationally abducted by a parent from one member country to the another. So it is widely said that India should not sign this particular convention because the signing of convention on signing of convention will enable the government to force children away from their mothers and immediate family to be sent to a foreign country without considering whether it is in the best interest of the child. This is a thoughtless move. That's what experts says, and that flies in the face of professed policy of India government to empower women. That's all about this article. Let's move on to the next one. It is again another dimension of the trade war that is going on between India and China. So President Trump has said that they are ready to tax all Chinese imports. So apparently, you know, he has also criticized the Federal Reserve for tightening the monetary policy that will hurt, or that will hurt all what they have done done to balance the trade between the US and Russia, and the US would be allowed to recapture what we lost due to the illegal currency manipulation and bad trade deals. That's what US has declared. Anyway, there is nothing more to be deeply analyzed in this article. Anyway, let's from the history of the world, we can infer that any trade war has never declared any winner. So let's move on to the next title. It is regarding Putin made a concrete offer, Ukraine offer. That's what a diplomat has declared. So this particular diplomat, after on speaking to Bloomberg on Tuesday, reported that at the Helsinki summit, Mr. Putin called for a referendum to be held with the help of international community in Ukraine's breakaway region of Donetsk and Lugansk, in which Russia-backed separatists control. So I think right now it is better to have a background information regarding the Russia-Ukraine crisis, or what exactly has happened. So Ukraine is a Texas-sized country that is sandwiched between Russia and Europe. It was part of a Soviet Union until 1991, and since then there has been less than perfect democracy with a very weak economy and foreign policy that wavers between pro-Russia and pro-European. So all this began with an internal crisis in 2013 when President Viktor Yanukovych rejected a deal for a greater integration with European Union. And what happened next was there was a mass protest which Yanukovych attempted to put down violently, and Russia supported this particular president while US and Europe supported the protesters. Since then several big things happened. In February, an anti-government protest toppled the government and this particular president left the country, and Russia, trying to salvage its lost influence in Ukraine, invaded and annexed Crimea next month. So in April, and in the later April, pro-Russia separatist rebels began seizing the territory in eastern Ukraine, and later they shot down a Malaysian Airlines flight, killing around 300 people. And the fighting between rebels and the Ukrainian military intensified later, and it is still going on. So that's all about this particular article, and the background information sufficient to understand this particular issue. And the next article we are going to learn is about NATO. So right now we know that Mr. Trump, that is the President of the United States, was bent on bridging a very good relationship with Russia. And after returning from Helsinki, that is after the meeting between President Trump and Putin, he declared that it was a much better summit when comparing with that of the his meeting with the NATO officials. So right now the NATO stands by all its allies. That's what the official says. There is nothing wrong with NATO, as it is told by Donald Trump. That's what the article tries to drive the point. So next article we are going to analyze is regarding China UAE relation. So China UAE seals an economic deals as President Xi visits Abu Dhabi. That's what this particular article is about. So anyway, while we when we see that China and UAE are building a strong relationship, we have to caution. Whereas India government should take it considerably, because we both, that is India and China, rely greatly on the GCC countries to feed their energy demands. So an unfair advantage or any kind of advantage that China is likely to take up in its relation with the GCC countries, it will have some repercussions on India. So let's see how the things evolve. So that's all about this particular article. And now let's move on to the next article. It is regarding the Securities Appellate Tribunal. So what exactly it is? So we'll have some background information regarding the same. So Security Exchange Board of India is responsible for protecting the interest of investors in securities and promote the development of uh, and to regulate the securities market and for all other connected matters, to protect and to be responsive to the needs of these three groups, that is issuer of securities, investors and intermediaries. SEBI has been invested with three necessary functions. That they are quasi legislative function, this is a quasi judicial function, and is quasi executive function. So since these powers make SEBI a very powerful body, an appeal process has been created to ensure accountability. For this, a quasi judicial function, that is Securities Appellate Tribunal, which is a three-member tribunal. A second appeals lies directly to the Supreme Court. So the first SAT, that is Securities Appellate Tribunal, was formed in 1995 through a notification issued by the central government, and therefore it is a statutory body established under the provisions of Section 15K of the Securities Exchange Board of India Act 1992. So to the mandations or the jurisdictions of this particular tribunal is that to hear and dispose appeals against orders passed by the SEBI or by any adjudicating officer that act under the exercise and jurisdiction of the SEBI Act. So the tribunal is a three-member body, as I mentioned before. It is composed of a presiding officer and two other members who are nominated by the central government. So the union government also reserves the right to notify as many SITs as it is needed. So the Securities Appellate Tribunal has only one bench, and it sits in Mumbai and has jurisdiction all over India. It's necessary. It can be a prelims question. So the Securities Appellate Tribunal is not bound by the procedure laid down by the Code of Civil Procedure 1908, but it is guided by the principle of natural justice and is subjected to the provisions of Depositories Act 1996. And the Securities Appellate Tribunal has power to regulate its own procedure, including the places at which it can have sittings. So every proceeding before the Securities Appellate Tribunal is deemed to be a judicial proceeding, and has the tribunal has all powers of a civil court. So just it is almost similar to that of NGT. That is, it works on the principle of natural justice, and it is not bound by the CPC, and also uh, you know uh, it has all powers of a civil court. And some of the notable cases uh, that was dealt by the SAT is that Sahara SEBI case. That is, in early February this year, SAT disposed of an appeal by the Sahara Group, saying that the matter was already pending before the Supreme Court. So the two Sahara Group firms have been accused of raising money without approvals of the SEBI, and the appeal related to involving the Sahara Group firms raising money without regulatory approvals. So the and again the other case was the Reliance Industries versus SEBI case. So insider trading case that is being heard by the SAT for the past 7 years. And another important case is Spice Telecom IPO case. The tribunal barred one Deepti Parekh from accessing the capital information for 2 years for cornering charges issued in the initial public offering of Spice Communications back in 2007. So that's what I think that such a background information was sufficient to understand about SAT. And right now, this particular article says that SAT refused to revoke its comments on comments against SEBI. So the security by this article says that the SIT has refused to revoke its order, in which it has sharply criticized the SEBI for letting off Tata Finance Limited, despite finding serious violations in it in 2001 over a preference share issue. So the tribunal has pulled up the capital market regulator for not taking any action against Tata Finance, despite senior SEBI officials finding that serious violations were found in a preference share issue that led to the then managing director Dilip Pense being barred from the capital market for 3 years. So that's all about this particular article. So let's move on to the next one. It is regarding the GST Council's latest meeting. So the 28th meeting of the GST Council will likely to discuss the inclusion of natural gas in GST. And the rationalization of the tax systems on more items, including the sanitary pads and handicraft items, and simplifying the returns filing procedure. And it is says that it is said in another article that GST Council is likely to approve. So it is likely to approve a modular approach towards filing of GST returns. So the rate rationalization committee has been discussing several products. A few specific products where a lot of lobbying has been going on, such as paint, cement, and marble, where they want the rate to be reduced from 28 to 18. So that's all about this particular article. So let's move on to the next and the last one. It is regarding rental lab policy. That is rental lab policy to bring revenues to institutions. So the government has proposed a new policy that could transform the scientific instruments in the government labs into a lucrative assets generating steady rental income. So it plans to hire out to the researchers all lab equipments that cost more than 10 lakh. So this would reduce the amount of time such expensive instruments that remains idle in various government labs across the country. So that's all about today's newspaper. So I welcome you all to put your comments and suggestions and criticisms in the comment box. Thank you very much for watching. And for all related PDFs, you are free to log on to our website, our blog, www.knowledgehouse.co. So if you like this video, if you like this video, please hit the like button and share it with your friends. And if you feel that you must not miss any more updates from us, you can subscribe our channel. So thank you very much for watching this video. Have a very nice day.